learning meaningful. Let me present our debate topic. Welcome once again. We are pleased to present you this interesting nowadays topic as today we explore how education can evolve to meet these needs of the 21st century while preserving the timeless value that makes learning meaningful. Let me present you our debate's topic. Today is the tradition meets innovation, balancing change of tradition for meaningful learning. First, let me introduce our team. I'm José Eduardo Argueta, and with me are Marlene Castro, Eunice Corado, Mayra Tzina, and Daniela Mellado. We're students from the final semester of the English degree with a specialization in educational technology, and together, along with our guests, Ms. Audrey Homler, Mr. Sergio Ventura, and Sergio Mendez. We'll examine how a tradition and innovation can coexist and enrich the learning experience. Our thesis statement is educational innovation is essential to prepare our students for real world changes, fostering creativity and adaptability while valuing the strong foundations and traditional education that sustain quality and structure. We want to focus that educational innovation must build upon, not erase, the strong foundation of traditional education that sustain quality and structure. And in context, some keywords will verifying to throughout the debate are digital innovation, blended learning collaboration, reflective practice, data-driven design, personalized learning, transmedia, and metaverse. We introduce our guests. I will introduce Audrey Homer, and her full name is, she's from Denver, Colorado. She graduated from law, okay, at the law school in May, and she's waiting for a part exam results, which is will be this Friday, hopefully, and she's gonna practice the human rights law. Okay, and she is very interested in both technology and education. And also, her sister works now as a teacher in New York City. And she um, her lost about the blending and use of technology for lessons development. And she existed about technology being used for strengthen education in an ethical way. Please feel more than welcome, Audrey.
Thank
Sergio
you.
Ventura, my pleasure. I'm Sergio Ventura, and he's an English language arts teacher and also a social studies teacher. And he's an instructor of call center of English, of course. And she is a course designer. Uh, his short background is, and he believes teaching that connect tradition with innovation as well. And he likes to keep his classes structure and focus on values while he's using creative and digital strategies that make learning more engaging and relevant. When when he used to be like very wise in technology or how technology is wisely for all of us, and he becomes the tools and empower teachers to enrich the learning experiences and also with us. Okay, Sergio Ventura, feel more than welcome. And also we have Mr. Sergio Mendez, and he's operating system professor, and and he is a cloud native enthusiast and Cloud Native Guatemala. Link for CNCF Ambassador. Now, Madeline.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this interesting topic and welcome to our guests. Today, we're going to be working and highlighting some ideas. So, the first one is innovation develops 21st century competencies, critical thinking, creativity, and adaptability, the skills students need to navigate uncertain future. Second, technology and design, including AI, data driven insights, transmedia learning, and metaverse environments, enabling personalized, engaging, and inclusive learning experiences that enrich learners where they are. Third, tradition still matters. It provides structure, discipline, and proven pedagogical methods that sustain educational quality and preserve the human connections between teachers and students. Also, we have teacher training and mindset remain the most powerful catalyst for transformation. Innovation begins when educators feel empowered and supported to change how learning happens. Then we also have innovative educational design honors tradition by integrating transmedia storytelling, data, and emerging technologies to expand how knowledge is created and shared rather than replacing what has worked. And finally, the key challenge is harmonizing innovation with cultural, ethical, and institutional realities, ensuring new designs respect context, equity, and pedagogy while expanding what's possible. So, for this, to expand the idea, I'll hand it over with Jose Eduardo.
Thank you, Marlon, for those insightful ideas on how innovation and tradition can work together in education. To deepen our discussion, I like to invite our guest, Ms. Audrey Homler, and to reflect on a few key questions. Our questions are: how can school innovate while preserving the most valuable aspects of traditional education? We're going to focus on this question for all of our guests. Thank you, Audrey.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. I think schools can innovate like using, I've talked to my sister who's used Claude. I think it's a like version of kind of ChatGPT, but to create lesson plans. So I feel like using technology to take a lot of the time that teachers use to create lesson plans and then having technology take some of the brunt of all of that labor is seems incredible to me. But then also having like maintaining still the teacher like student dynamic, the um, educational history, like that relationship, instead of having technology take that part over. I'm definitely wary of that, and but interested in how it can be used to just help and assist particularly teachers in the learning environment.
Yeah, wonderful. That's great to know those things because it's not everything. Technology can help us, but then we keep the tradition methods, right? That's what you were mentioning on it. So I do really appreciate your answer. I would like that we take some turns. I would like that Sergio Ventura, could you share something about this based on this question?
Well, thinking about that, how schools innovate while preserving the most valuable aspects of traditional education, well, I think that very important, something that we can do is to integrate technology in classrooms, in planning, and also in grading, But it's also important, guys, to take on account that we cannot replace teachers. because they are the ones that use the technology, right? But this is something that we cannot replace from the traditional education is like critical thinking, or different goals that we have, or uh, specific objectives, something that we can find in our planning, to achieve different educational goals, right? So, but I think, yeah, innovation can be by adding technology, right? Even using like something as a warm up, like a Kahoot, right? Genially, and so on, right? So, but yeah, that's something important that we can add to make our classes more engaging.
That help that helps us a lot with your point of view. That's really interesting. Thank you very much. And then Sergio Mendes, what is your first word that you may say about this question?
Well, let's say that in my experience, because I am also a professor, I teach operating systems. And sometimes we have some tasks about programming and that kind of stuff. So for me, it's more like add something extra or additional, like complements the way that the students are learning. Let's say, for example, I use simulators for programming and kind of that scenarios when the students can practice instead of just watching the blackboard, and they can see the screen and they can practice on real time with me. So in my case, I use complementary tools with my students in order that they can practice with me. So for me, it's more like I can innovate with complementary tools with my students, right? So that's the way that I used to teach in the university, in a specific for a technology course, right?
That's absolutely mostly you have to use technology with your students, okay? And that is really interesting to use simulations, right, in order to teach them in a real world. Excellent. Thank you very much for those points of view. I like to hear that. So essentially, we have another question that it's what are the biggest challenges educators face when adopting innovative practices in learning design? That's a challenge, of course. What would you say, Audrey? Could you please share with us this?
Hmm. I think it's complicated, I guess, when technology is changing so fast, like how teachers can be, I guess, like on the cutting edge of educating students about how to use like the latest technology. I think that seems like a struggle to me, and I can reflect back on in my schooling, like I think we were always kind of a step behind because it always to buy the technology also and then have it in your school is expensive. And then if there's a new technology, then it's like, how do you keep up with that? And how do you um, how how do you have your students educated for when they're actually leaving school to know what's how to use the thing that's there present at that time.
That's really interesting. Yeah, those words. That's the that educators face and our students as well, right? As you were mentioning, really nice. See, Sergio Ventura, would you say something about?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, I think that when just we read the questions, right? What are the biggest challenges? Well, there are many, right? But I believe that one of them that I think is really important is how how teachers get adapted, with the new technologies, because some of teachers are very traditional, with their methodology, and to get adapted with the new technologies to use them as tools is not that easy, right? That's one of the big challenges. So to get adapted, right? So to they need to have the training to be good at that, or to feel comfortable with the technology and use it in classes. Well, that will be one of the challenges, but we have to think about that some schools they have the this kind of access to technology, but there are some schools, right, that they don't have that. I mean, they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the devices to have this kind of interactions, so that's why this adopting innovative thing is interesting,
Yeah, that's absolutely okay. Um, but we are that's visible, right? When we watch it, so we are facing those things. Excellent. Thank you very much, Sergio. What about you, Sergio Mendes, about this?
Okay, for me, well, let's say that the COVID time changed everything in the university, schools, and everything, right? So for me, I struggle a lot with my students, with the attention of the students, right? Have that attention that they can focus on my class. Maybe they are sleeping. I don't know. So play with that is a little bit like, well, you have to play smart, let's say, in the class. And sometimes I try to teach like I am streaming a video like Twitch or something like that, in a way that the students can take and focus on me, right? All the content and everything. So for me, I the challenge is to have the attention of the students, right? For me, because you can have
Absolutely.
technology and everything, but if you don't have the attention of the students, doesn't matter, right? So it's a big problem.
Yeah, actually, we are suffering those things in any kind of any subject we teach in any level as well. Great, thank you. That's really nice experience. And the other question I have is, which innovations have demonstrated the most meaningful impact on students' learning outcomes? Would you like to take your turn, ma'am, please?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, like statistically, which ones have demonstrated the most impact, but I can speak, I guess, to my sister's experience and the effectiveness of like Claude, this AI program, in helping to create a creative lesson plan that would engage the students, and then also teaching like essential uh, in amazing things that they need to learn. But blending the two, I think I've watched her be very successful in using that. Um, I also just think like all having students so connected to technology outside of the classroom too, like just with friends or their own phone or their parents' phone, like seeing the news all the time or seeing like TikTok, like news locally, and I guess the connectiveness of social media and technology, I think, is also affecting learning, even though it's not necessarily always in the classroom. But my sister is talking about how kids in her class know basically like all the news that she knows on an everyday basis because they have such a high access to technology that it's like everybody's learning things quicker in a way. People are getting more information quicker than they ever have before.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's really interesting to know it because we have all those kind of technologies we may use for our benefits, right? In order to have more connection with our students. That's really nice to know that. Thank you. Okay, what about you, Sergio Ventura?
Thank you very much, Jose. I was listening, and I just was wondering that if that some years ago, right, like 10 years ago, if we wanted to learn a language, we have a here in Guatemala, especially, right, we had a book, and you have a CD with the pronunciation of words. That was fantastic. That was very interesting. And nowadays, as we heard, right, so we have a different applications, that we can access now to learn a language. And now with the boom of the AI, right, so among different applications, we have different chat boxes, that help us now teachers with planning, with administrative tasks and so on. Well, that's amazing. But thinking about that one of the applications that has demonstrated the most meaningful impact on the students' learning, to me, is the adaptive learning, applications, because uh, so they're so nice that they know how the student goes in their learning process, and help them to reach the goal, to achieve the goal. So that's really, this is one of the innovations that I think that is really important nowadays, you know.
That's really interesting. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we do as teachers, and also students are just discovering new things, and then we have to adapt to them, right? Perfect. Okay, what about you, Sergio Mendes?
I have like some kind of story, more or less. Let's say, well, because the students doesn't interact a lot in the classroom. Let's say, how I can try to improve that engaging thing in the students. Let's say, if I am using Google Meet, I activate the part of anonymous questions, right? So in that way, the students can write, and I don't know who is writing, right? So in that order, I push the students to start asking questions, everything they want, share jokes or something like that. So for me, the innovation part, anonymous questions, improve my communication with my students, right? That's for me. That's in my class. That's how it works for me.
Wow, that's really nice to know it, because students can make some questions that nobody knows who did, and then also they are asking what they want to know, right? And also as teachers, we are just supporting them by those kind of questions or doubts that they have. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. And our last question is, um, how can transmedia or metaverse-based education enhance students' engagement without losing pedagogical rigor?
Can somebody tell me a little bit about like metaverse, what it means?
All right. Yeah. So in this way, with say that metaverse is like the everything which is related with the web, okay? And then we can interact with them, right? The metaverse is everything we find and everything we share and everything we have in contact in the internet, in the web.
So yeah, I guess like using it in a way that is not like we're not solely focused on it. We're still like engaging in a classroom environment, but we're using it as a tool rather than a like a crutch. Um, and yeah, like still maintaining the relationship, the teacher student relationship, and using it as like an enhancement rather than something that is inhibiting it or taking away.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much. And then, Sergio Ventura, would you like to share with us something about it? What you know it?
I was just like metaverse uh, based of education. Well, what it came to me, guys, is that there is a movie, right? That is Ready Player Number Two. I think it is the name of the movie, right? That you got some glasses and you get into a world and all this stuff. So it came to me that is like a virtual reality, a VR technology. So I think that the metaverse based education can help us to have an uh, immerse interaction, with we can design. I mean, different lessons. Having well, for example, if we're just designing a chemistry class, you know, and we want just to mix elements. So in a real world, so we cannot make this kind of mix, because it can be a little bit dangerous. But if we do it there, in this kind of virtual reality, it will be interesting because we can see what's going on, right? And well, that makes it very engaging, right, guys? I mean, you can see the reactions of the elements and you can see what's going on. Well, that's very interesting. Besides that, if you're creating lessons in something like the metaverse, so that means that you can customize the different places. So you can be in a museum, you can be on the beach, you can be in the classroom, and I think that we don't lose the pedagogical rigor, since as teachers we have an objective, right? We have clear goals. We have to create reflection in students and also evaluation. Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, that's really nice how you have worked with it. That's really interesting. Thank you very much. And also, Sergio Mendez, what about you? You had many things to say, right?
Well, I think that, well, I was reading a little bit about metaverse, so I think that, well, it says like 3D scenarios or something like that. I don't use something similar like that. So, but for me, let's say that I can give this example. In my course, we have like, well, let's say that I am leading a software community here in Guatemala. Well, I'm from Guatemala, right? So I invite my students to some kind of after class activity for points, let's say, so they can like continue learning the topic and everything. They can meet the other students in person. Sometimes we host like live streamings or something like that. So for me, that's the way to include another platforms, right? Like I also use StreamYard sometimes, YouTube, and sometimes I post some kind of small reels on Instagram about topic of the course or something like that. So I love to include different kind of things so my students can look at me as a kind of software influencer or something like that. So for me, that's the way to include like another platforms to teach.
Exactly. Actually, you answered this question since the very beginning when you were saying that you were using simulators or simulations with students, right? Because that is the 3D and the metaverse. Okay,
No,
creating
no, no, but it's
avatars and
like a different
all
kind
those
of
things, right?
simulator. But in some kind of cases, you can use simulation also. So, but it's like
That is the
something like that.
metaverse, right?
Yeah.
That is the metaverse. Even though we don't realize that metaverse, we are connected and also we are sharing with the metaverse without knowing it. So we doing it, right? Because when we sometimes create avatars and then we are doing the virtual reality and also the augmented reality as well. So those aspects, we're living with them. Okay, right? But as Sergio Ventura was saying, right, with no risk uh, chemistry class, for example, you know, and then they are mixing some liquids with no risk. You are using a simulator with your depends of the apps you're using or simulators, and then you're moving for everywhere. So that's really interesting. Thank you very much. Our so you are making this interview and this
Can, can
streaming
I add
values a
something?
lot. Yes,
Can I
of
add
course.
something? Okay. Let's say that right now we are in the era of artificial intelligence, right? All the people is using ChatGPT. That's true, right? So let's say, for example, with my students, when we do like kind of programming task or something like that, I can say, okay, I am going to use ChatGPT to programming this. If I can do that with ChatGPT, you can do it. So you don't have excuse, right? So sometimes I use the AI in that way, right?
Absolutely. It helps us a lot, right? So a long time ago, we used different kind of engines to search for information. Nowadays, now we have something that has been um, taken in one site, right? So excellent. Thank you very much for your experiences, and then we appreciate it. We truly value your perspective of these topics as they connect directly to our thesis about balancing change and tradition for meaningful learning. Thank you. With you,
Eh,
Emily.
Thank you, Jose Eduardo. Well, as we begin, it's important to remember that innovation in education is not about replacing tradition, but rather about reimagining to empower modern learning. Traditional education gave us a structure, guidance, and human connection. Innovation gives us flexibility, creativity, and the ability to personalize learning. Our goal is to find a balance between both words to create learning experiences that are relevant, inclusive, and future oriented. Well, thank you, Jose Eduardo. Now let's about why innovation in education is not just an opinion but a necessary. Well, um, think about this. Uh, how was a classroom in 2005 versus a 2025 class? Same desk, new students, different world. Let me share you that according to UNESCO, the 85% of today's students will work in jobs that don't yet exist. And the World Economic Forum estimate that 50% of employers will need reskilling by 2030. Meanwhile, students spend around 7 hours daily interacting with Digital Connect, but many schools still teach as before. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development 2023 um, is now to add to this, artificial intelligence is reshaping how we learn and teach, from personalized tutoring to predictive learning analytics that help identify students' needs in real time. And according to UNICEF's 2024 Digital Learning Report, schools that integrate technology with pedagogical purpose show up to a 25% increase in students' engagement and retention. All this shows one clear message: education must evolve not to replace tradition, but to adapt to the new way students live, think, and connect. Now, Mayra will share what tradition skill offer us and why it continues to be essential in modern times.
Thank you. Okay, in this case, what traditional gives to us, we are going to remember about discipline and structure. Here you can see here that strengthened cognitive growth with the students and fundamental literacy and numeracy skills that support higher learning with this process when we talk about that. And here we have emotional connection, and the teacher never forget about that. The student support that no technology can replace the teacher. Remember, we are going to develop the different roles we have in this process. But about the vision, we have vision to practice. What the vision we have about that? Implement blended learning. you know about that. When we talk about the blending learning, is we are going to say integration of face-to-face teaching and online learning. In this case, give to our students, they can provide flexibility, autonomy, and active students in this process. When we are going to integrate technology or different other tools we are going to teach, and create teacher innovation labs. When we talk about that, the teacher can give the experience, or we are going to experiment peer different activities. We are going to work peer collaboration and reflecting practice and apply data driving. We are going to design, we are going to say about design to personalization learning pathways. Use transmedia. When Jose and su guest, they talk about that, they say use transmedia, for example, when we talk about storytelling, to connect the content or topic we are going to teach across the platforms and different contexts. Explore metaverse classroom for immerse experimental learning. It gives to us the access how we can to combine different topic when we teach new topic with the students, different activity we're going to do, and maintain traditional pedagogical answers, mentorship, reflection, and formative feedback. It guide to innovation. It help to us how we can respond the needs the students have. Different. Remember, we receive the different students in our classroom. They have the different context. And right now we are going to start with Daniela about other topic is takeaways.
When creativity is combined with good, ah, sorry. Sergio, tell me, right, that maybe you can hear my voice, right? But I tell you that innovation starts when teachers are open to give new ideas, and when we have creativity and try to combine it with good teaching methods, the results last longer and it will be great. And technology help us to explore new possibilities, but it's pedagogy that gives meaning and directions to what we do. And when teachers combine passions with purpose, I believe it is a good idea because learning transfer into a meaningful and exciting journey, right? And every lesson becomes an opportunity to inspire curiosity and confidence in students. That's the idea, right? The principal thing. And creativity brings energy and motivation, while good pedagogy ensures structure and direction. That's something that I really love it. And true educational change happens when technology and creativity, and pedagogy work together. That's like a team. And if we try to combine everything, what I'm saying before, everything will work, and we word it right. So right now, I have two questions, maybe for Sergio Mendez. So let's see the questions that I want to help you. How can educator Sergio Mendez blend traditional and innovative approaches engaging learning? And this is the first question for you.
Okay. How can educators blend traditional and innovative approaches in enhancing learning? Well, I think that is the thing that I was explaining, sharing a little bit. Um, Complementary stuff, complementary technologies that maybe you can use for practice in the courses, depending on the course that you are teaching, like programming, environments that you can program and compile a program, chemistry, maybe simulators about liquids, things like that. So complementary stuff, right? You can use for complement your traditional and adding a little bit of innovation, adding technology tools, right?
Perfect. Thank you. And the other question that you can see right there, in what ways can data-driven and transmedia learning designs coexist with traditional methods to create deeper, more meaningful learning? What it could be a good answer for you?
Um, Let me see. In what ways can data-driven transmedia coexist with traditional methods? I think that sometimes, well, let's say with students, I ask the students like, "What do you want to learn?" Right? But I have like a scenario, like I have a couple of things that are related to some topic. So I ask my students to choose one topic or the order for the topics, let's say, and in that way I can complement the things with different platforms, videos, blog posts, maybe sharing in a community, live streaming or something like that. And mostly I use, let's say that the most common thing that I use with my student is videos, right? And sometimes I love to improvise, but without moving to a different task, just to have like, or move in the same context of the topic, right? So that's the way that I used to complement or different kind of sources of information. And let's say that that's my way to do the things.
Thank you, Sergio, and I appreciated every answer that you gave us. So right now, let's continue with Marlene. She wants to to tell us many things.
Thank you. Okay, and I think that our guests, Sergio and Tura, could you tell us how can educators blend traditional and innovative approaches in ASEAN learning in your perspective?
Well, talking about that, right? So I totally agree with Sergio because we're answering the same questions, right? So, well, you know what? By implementing the technology, right? I mean, for example, if we want to go with a warm up in class, we can use a Kahoot or a wrap up, activity. We can go with a Educa Play. We can go with Genially. And even if we are teaching social studies, for instance, we can go with an interactive map where they have to locate the places, you know, and or label them. So we can do that way. So that will be how we do that way. Um,
Okay,
exactly.
thank you. And in what ways can data-driven and transmedia learning designs coexist with traditional methods to create deeper, more meaningful learning in your perspective? Sergio
Well, I
Ventura.
think I think that data driven. I mean, thinking about the big data, right, guys? I mean, all the information that we can find around about education, including the different quizzes that we have from our students, and all that information can help us to personalize the lesson. Personalize the lesson by including different activities like watching a video, like listening to an audio. I mean, different things that can help us to to make the learning more meaningful. But I mean, what I'm just saying, like at the very beginning we were mentioning that we can use social media to learn different things, right? So well, that's the way it is. I mean, we can go with this authentic material that we can use to teach our students, and that make it very useful for them, like oh, that works, so that's why I'm learning. So you teach them you teach them why they're learning that, so they find it like it's important, so because I'm gonna use it.
Thank you. I totally agree because I have done it too. Thank you. And Miss Homler, according of what you have seen with your sisters in your community nowadays, what can you tell us? How can educators blend traditional and innovative approaches in NACIN learning?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Sergio Mendez and what Sergio Ventura said, like using videos and like Kahoot to like as a extension of learning and keeping engagement with the students. I'm also thinking about how like media literacy is going to be really important, like having students be able to identify like if something is made by AI or if something's real or if this like whatever this piece of news is, where is it coming from, and like is this real news, is this like that kind of identification could be like good practice in class in identifying like these scholarly sources versus seeing this on Facebook versus seeing this on like AI or TikTok created. I think like having students be able to sort that out would be really important for their own like discernment going forward in this age that we haven't been in yet of like AI creation, and as well as like just sources, like knowing where our sources of like news come from, and when you're going to write a paper, when you're writing a paper, where are your citations coming from? I know, like in my experience, also in law school, I was using. They have something called Lexis, which is like to search for cases. You use the service, and they had an AI version of it, which was so helpful because it would pull so many of the correct cases, but often it would get something incorrect. So like being able to double check and teaching students how to double check that is going to be so important, because like it's just dangerous to if we're messing with information that's not totally accurate in the world. But so yeah, just mixing the two, but in a way that is we're being fully educated and we're being safe with the technology that we're using as students and as educators.
Yeah, both we have to be prepared and we have to be, as you have said, digital literate in order to share and to have that critical thinking and that analysis that we nowadays need. Thank you very, very much. So we really appreciate for your valuable insights in this topic. And well, that's it. We have come to this closing time. So we really appreciate to Miss Audrey Homler, Mr. Sergio Ventura, and Mr. Sergio Mendez for your time, for joining us and sharing your valuable points of view. And thanks for the ones who are our audience and watching and engaging with today's discussion. And also that we want to acknowledge that to all of us as presenters, that these points and perspectives, that how tradition and innovation can work together is in order to create meaningful learning and experiences. So this conversation demonstrates how reflection, experimentation, and collaboration continue to shape the future in education. And well, we invite you to carry these ideas forward in practice and what we have been doing. And I have a phrase that says that because real learning happens when tradition meets innovation. So we really, really appreciate this time, and thank you everyone for this moment.
Thank you all.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Bye bye.